Hello everyone, I'm Jordana Van of Ravenlight Holistic Healing and welcome to Coyote as a spirit guide. Before we get going, there are some tremendous changes happening here that I know you'll want to know about. So keep your eyes peeled for the video I'll be uploading about the details later this month. It's currently March 2021, so if you're watching this in the future, these changes should already have been put into place. And you can head over to my website, www.ravenlightholistic.healing.com, to check out all the new stuff. If it's not up there when you're looking at this, it should be soon. The most significant of these changes is that starting now, I'm no longer accepting new clients. And I know, but I promise you guys are really going to enjoy what I'll be doing with my energy instead, as I am responding directly to your requests. Also, for all of you who have lovingly asked me over the years if you can donate to support me in my work, I'm now on Patreon under Jordana Van and Ravenlight Holistic Healing. Either one of those will get you to my account. As 50% of my income has been reliant upon the new clients that I'm no longer seeing, your support may be one of the things that will facilitate my continuing to create new videos for you. And there are going to be a lot of new videos, hint, hint. There will also be some significant perks to becoming a regular supporter, such as the ability to actually help me choose which video to make next, and access to info about each animal that won't be shared here or on any other public platform. So there's more to Coyote as a spirit guide than I'll be sharing here. You would be able to access that via Patreon if you are an official subscriber. So this and all the new things that you can expect from me will be covered in a separate upcoming video. And if you're too excited to wait, you can head over to patreon.com and get the ball rolling. Also, remember that if you want to be notified every time I release a new video, it's not enough to just subscribe to my channel. You actually have to click that little bell icon and also select all. Otherwise, YouTube will choose which of my videos it thinks you want to know about, and that might be none of them. Thank you guys so much for your patience. Let's get started. So, first off, there is an important distinction between when something is your spirit guide versus when something is your totem. And I have a video on each of these for Coyote. So to make sure you're watching the right video for you, a spirit guide is a temporary messenger, here to help you navigate a specific circumstance or deliver a situation-specific message. And once it's done so, and once you've integrated that wisdom, made use of it, it tends to hit the road. Spirit guides can stick around for a while. Some of our challenges take us a long freaking time to get through. But again, the emphasis is still on something transient. So Coyote's more likely a spirit guide for you if you've never really had any feelings around Coyote before, but suddenly they're everywhere. If that's you, you're in the right place. On the other hand, if you've always had at least a moderate interest in or affection for coyotes, if you're chronically terrified of them, or if you've had lifelong experiences with them, Coyote is more likely a totem for you. So a totem is a symbolic representation of a defining part of ourselves, and the animal is there to help you develop that part to its fullest, most authentic potential, usually by helping you move through some specific challenges. It also resonates with certain parts of your personality. So if you are a coyote person, you are going to have a markedly coyote-esque personality in at least a few obvious ways. Totem relationships are lifelong, and while you absolutely can discover them later in life, sometimes much later, when you do, you still tend to kind of think something like, yeah, I did always kind of have a feeling about that animal. So if you now realize that actually Coyote is your totem and not your spirit guide, head over to my other video, Coyote as a Totem, Personality Characteristics and Life Path Challenges, and that should tell you what you need to know. Okie dokie? So, when something is our spirit guide, there is no one-size-fits-all hard and fast message that will apply every single time to every person. It would be so convenient if there were, but we all know the universe is not a fan of convenience. So instead, there are a number of messages associated with each guide, and you know which one's right for you by asking yourself, does this feel like what's going on with me? And this might not be a simple question to answer. You may really actually have to sit down and think about each message and feel through it and see how it fits in your life right now. So of the list of messages I'm going to give you in a sec, only one might resonate, and that is the thing that you need to know and begin to work with. Because we're talking about Coyote, and Coyote is the king of confusion and complication and inconvenience, it may be that more than one message fits you right now, and they may conflict. So that's okay too. Just try to deal with them one at a time. So we're going to start with a few of the more common messages tied to Coyote, and these have to do with his role in Native American mythology as a trickster. To make sure we're all on the same page here, because trickster's one of those terms like Mercury retrograde, which has been given the pop culture treatment. A trickster is defined as a mischievous figure who employs cleverness and cunning to attain what he wants, usually because he lacks the physical ability to do it himself, and who does so at the expense of others. Tricksters are symbols of chaos who disobey the rules that apply to everyone else and fly in the face of conventional behavior. Sometimes they're heroes, sometimes they're villains, sometimes they're wise, sometimes they're foolish, sometimes they are all of the above in the same story. Because coyotes exist only in North America right now, the original tales that feature Coyote as a trickster are exclusively Native American. And it's really critical to note here that Native American does not refer to a homogeneous bunch of people. Each individual tribe has its own unique language and culture and mythology, and so each tribe also has its own take on coyote, sometimes multiple takes. The Navajo have, I believe, 32 different coyotes in their creation mythology. So in many Native American legends, Coyote is a deceiver, a seducer, a beggar, a glutton, a coward, a thief, and ultimately a villain. In these cases, he is the worst of characters, allowing his selfish nature to inspire him to lie and cheat, manipulate others in order to get his way, or to make himself look better than he is. Inevitably, his schemes blow up in his face, and he's otherwise found out in the end or scorned. However, in other legends, he is the most sacred of the holy people, a teacher, warrior, provider, healer, hunter, creator, and hero. But he's still Coyote. Even his altruistic acts are frequently accomplished through trickery or theft, and sometimes his positive contributions are simply the result of his selfish intentions accidentally yielding beneficial consequences. In many of our more modern coyote tales, those found in the urban fantasy of the last 30 years, for example, and which are equally important because they are now part of the collective consciousness, Coyote is painted in a more reliably generous light, as a sacred trickster whose manipulations almost always consciously serve a dual purpose, resulting in him getting what he wants and in intentionally teaching the victim of his schemes a valuable lesson. In other cases, he is the villain again, and we can't help but love him for his cleverness, appreciating the sly way in which he has misled us, even as the ship he sold us is sinking. So knowing all of this, what kinds of messages may Coyote's presence be meant to signify for you? Well, for one, that someone in your life may be lying, trying to manipulate you, trying to steal from you, or otherwise trying to make you trust in them while planning to betray you. This person would be a smooth talker with a perfect answer for every question you ask, but something about them just doesn't feel right. It's important to recognize that we're not just talking about our classic used car salesman scenario here, where they tell you, oh yeah, that car's a beauty, she's never had a single issue, and then the thing breaks down the second you fork over the cash and drive off the lot. This could be everything and everyone, from an online degree program or some other certification that seems a little too good to be true, or that tempting article you just read about a particular food or herb that promises to solve all of your health issues if you ingest it once a day and subscribe to their program, to a new friend encouraging you to open up when it doesn't feel right. Someone I know recently described this best when they admitted that they sometimes make up secrets to share with others in order to trick those others into feeling comfortable sharing their secrets when they were hesitating to do so. Whatever this person or opportunity is, you would really want to trust in it, but again, a big part of you is feeling squeamish about it. If you are aware of a situation like this in your life, Coyote would be telling you to abso-freaking-lutely keep your money, keep your secrets, and walk away. There's something else that's crucial to consider here. Coyote is the epitome of a two-faced being, someone capable of exhibiting one persona one moment and just as fully expressing the opposite in the next. Remember, he's hero and villain, thief and provider, warrior and coward. One of the things that often makes it so difficult to spot a deceiver is that in the moment that they are deceiving you, they don't believe they are deceiving you. They are so thoroughly capable of living in their fantasies about themselves and their plans that they don't even feel like they're lying. When this happens, it's often only a very subtle gut feeling on our end that tells us something is wrong, because everything really does look and sound right. So no matter how quietly your gut may be whispering to you, pay attention to those niggling feelings of doubt. It is also of the utmost importance when Coyote is around to look at a person's past behavior. No matter how believable they seem to be, if they have betrayed you or let you down before, when Coyote's around, they're probably going to do it again. So now is not the time to go along with whatever they're selling, whether that is a scheme or their assertion that they love you and they will always be there for you and treat you with respect. So our next message. There are two particular ways that Coyote most often gets himself into trouble in his stories. And so as a spirit guide, Coyote would recommend that you ask yourself if you are doing these things, and if so, to knock it off. So the first is that Coyote is in many ways an extraordinarily insecure creature. In an effort to make himself look better or gain admiration, he'll lie about his abilities, take credit for things he hasn't done, or attempt to change his appearance in ways that ultimately backfire, leaving him injured or embarrassed or both. So ask yourself, are you letting insecurity prevent you from showing your true self? Are you saying things about yourself that aren't true because you don't think you're acceptable or deserving of admiration or attention just for being you? Are you considering doing something drastic for the sake of impressing others? If so, it's time to step back and look at why you feel insecure and start doing some work on loving and accepting yourself. Pretending to be something that you are not really is only going to make you sorry later. The other way that our trickster Coyote gets himself into trouble is by being impatient, cheating, or cutting corners. If you are thinking about taking a shortcut to what you want, particularly if you know that shortcut would be considered cheating, don't. If you're being impatient, take a step back, slow down. Moving impulsively towards what you want means that you're probably going to miss critical information, and you'll just have to go back to the beginning again anyway. One thing you can safely do here, however, is use Coyote's infamous cleverness to look for more efficient ways of getting there, or to spot legal loopholes. It's not so much breaking the rules in this case as changing them or exploiting their shortcomings. The last message we're going to talk about that relates to Coyote's role as a trickster has to do with overcomplicating things. In many of our modern trickster tales, Coyote intentionally makes things as convoluted as possible as a way of concealing his true agenda, or simply for the pure enjoyment of watching others run around in circles. When Coyote is around and you're dealing with a complicated situation, do what you can to cut to the truth and simplify things. Instead of worrying and making assumptions regarding your next steps, get the facts if you can. Do some research. Talk to the right people. Otherwise, you're just going to lose a lot of sleep and waste a lot of time on parts of the process that you think are vital but are actually totally unnecessary. So let's step away from Coyote as a trickster and talk about another way in which Coyote has become part of pop culture. Those famous Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons. Though it may strike some of us as a bit ridiculous, which is perfect because Coyote is a big fan of the ridiculous. So many of us are familiar with the cartoons and poor Wiley's never-ending quest to catch that Roadrunner for dinner that this portrayal has actually become part of the collective consciousness and thus a symbol the universe may use to try to tell us something. Remember, the silly is every bit as holy as the more traditionally sacred, especially when Coyote's around. So the most obvious message here is the foolhardiness of obsessively pursuing the same thing through the same methods despite failure after failure. Wile E. Coyote must have tried every freaking product that Acme produced, all with the same result. He was either squashed flat, incinerated, had a long whistling plummet to the ground far below, or experienced some other physical unpleasantness. That Coyote was so fixated on what he wanted that he didn't stop to look at some obvious flaws in his logic. The first was continuing to buy from Acme. Yes, he tried different products, but at some point, don't you think he should have noted the number of times those bombs exploded early, or the springboard sprung apart, and thought, you know, I think this company was invented by Trickster Coyote and is actually just taking my money while screwing me over. The second was the fact that actually Coyotes run faster than Roadrunner.